We'll be right back. Welcome back, listener. How are you? Aaron Richmond. This is Aaron's Opinion on 87.1 Caroline Radio, KCGN Bakersfield, your home for all your variety hits. Oh, yeah, and by the way, you might have noticed that we're also on Blind Advocate Radio. Thank you to both of our stations for airing this podcast today, whenever it may air. And if you are not listening on the radio, you can listen on all of the podcast clients and on YouTube. Anyway, we're talking to Sushil from Kathmandu, Nepal. All right. Before the break, we were talking about your wonderful experience you had in Orlando. Tell me more about that experience and specifically what activities did you participate in? What did they have? What did you do? Did you go to Disney? Tell us all about it.
Well, I was really amazed to have met a lot of blind and visually impaired people from all across the states at like under the single roof, and listening their different activities that really inspired me, and I participated in different groups. Especially I was fond of travel and tourism division led by Sarah Lecheveria. And I also met people from special group needs. I forgot the name, but Andrew special needs group. So they were offering so much services for the travelers with disabilities, and I was I was learning a lot. It was really a growthful learning experience for me. And also somebody taught me navigating with cane in US, because here in Nepal we do use very short cane, and because the streets are very narrow and things are pretty different over here, unlike America. So I also learned some American ways to navigate around, and I also saw people using blind guiding dogs, and I always bring an analogy like between dogs over there in America and over here in Nepal, and it's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's just like kind of really funny. So I would always say that in America I saw blind guiding dogs, but here in Nepal we have blind biting dogs, because a lot of stray dogs are found to be sleeping on the pavements, and many times our planes happen to strike them.
I got it. I got it. Yeah, yes, yes, you explained it. So in you, I get the humor. That's cool, man. That's an interesting joke, and that's
Yeah.
I really understand the picture of Nepal. So in Nepal, just like actually in many countries around the world, they have a stray dog problem. That's not just Nepal. It's a
Right.
problem. It's a problem in a lot of places. It's a
Right.
lot of different reasons, but it's a problem in many places. Yes, so they have by
Yes.
blind biting dogs, while we in America we have blind guiding dogs.
Right.
I
Right.
got you. Yeah, mate. I actually have a retired guide dog, and
Yeah.
she lives in my home now. Yeah, she's wonderful. Her name is Nani, and
Wow,
she,
Nani.
yeah,
It's
and
Nepali
she.
name. Do you know that?
What does that word mean in Nepali?
Nani means small child, girl child.
Oh, that's interesting because in the Italian language it's the word for grandmother. So it's interesting
Oh,
how in many languages the word nani relates to a person. That's a very odd thing. Oh,
Yeah.
that's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah. So I can understand that in Nepal, it would not be heard of for a blind person to have like a trained guide dog from a school, right? Or are there nowadays are some blind people able to have a guide dog in Nepal? What do you
No,
think?
no, nobody has
Yeah.
guide dog yet here. Because like here things are pretty different. People could imagine, things are, buses are full, not only like they sit on the seat, but they hang around even on the door. So here the outlook is different. So streets are very narrow, um, and no blind person has used guide dog yet here.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I have learned about some of this through watching documentaries
Hmm.
and, learning about, your society
Hmm.
over the years, from hearing about different organizations and different movies that have been made. I mean, unfortunately, and it seems to be true a little bit, that it seems that life is very challenging in Nepal and that there
Hmm.
are
Yep.
many, yeah. So I mean, do you agree with that though? Do you think it's hard?
Yeah, sure. Because
Oh, okay.
especially we do have two kind of barriers that people with disabilities have been facing here. One, first and foremost, comes as physical barrier, because the things are not like disabled friendly. We are advocating and pushing hard, pushing hard through to pressurize government to adopt accessible infrastructures. Many government buildings are still they lack uh, ramps or elevators,
Yeah.
and the predicament is that all the top headed people, they sit on the top floor and they don't want to come down, and we are like we do like we have been pressurizing, and after like earthquake, many buildings have been like have fallen down, and government is reconstructing many buildings, and we are saying this is the right time to pressurize government to consider accessibility right from the center, because new buildings are being constructed, right? So the changes have been seen in terms of new construction. So earthquake happened, that was bad, but this also gave us an opportunity to reframe and consider accessible infrastructures for people with disabilities to enjoy the equal rights that other are enjoying.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really important, and I totally understand what you're saying. I think, but I think ultimately the hardest and greatest challenge for blind people in in every country is overcoming the social things,
Stigma.
dealing dealing
Right.
with dealing with with people around you and that type of thing. Now it's
Yes.
hard it's hard to compare because I am suspicious that these issues are a lot more severe in Nepal than perhaps many countries. But
Right.
and at the same time, and I believe you 1,000%, mate. But at and on top of that, I can tell you that as a successful American,
Hmm.
I can tell you that even in America, there are
Hmm.
still there's still ignorant people and discrimination and inappropriate things, and it's not the same as it is in your country, but
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
we still have, and I mean I'm saying this to listeners all over the world because a lot of people, not you at all, because you're aware, you've traveled the world and you seem to be perfectly aware of things, but many people have been led to believe, and many students of mine have been led to believe this too, that everything is just perfect in America. They think that when they get off the plane they're going to be instantly rich, and that everything's going to be like easy and there's no struggles in our country at all. Well, the fact is, the philosophical fact is that life is a struggle and that there are challenges everywhere. Now,
Yes. Yeah.
now, factually, do you have way more challenges in Nepal than I would ever imagine in my lifetime? Yes. But
Yeah, of course.
yes, you do. But I also am one to believe, and I was raised and I was taught to believe that in the end, it's our job to make sure that we're the person who's successful. Basically, I don't care what country you're from. What I
Hmm.
do care about is how much you've helped people and how successful you are in your own life. Because
Right.
being helpful and being successful, that's not a nationality. That's not a passport. So
Hmm.
that's kind of how I view it. So, but when when you interact with Nepalese people around you, have you found that over time, are some Nepalese people becoming a little bit more aware of successful blind people like you? Are they becoming a little bit more modern, I guess? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would say, there is a big gap between, people living in urban and rural areas. I already told you that, if we like, cross Kathmandu Valley, if we go to rural communities, and people, you know, have a lot of misconceptions about, disability, and, like a lot of stigmas are there, a lot of discriminations are there, but, it differs, whom we are like interacting with. If in the urban areas, in the city, people are, getting more educated, and they know, like, they have at least heard about, the contribution made by people with disabilities, and they have seen, people with disabilities working in different, fields. They have studied about, Helen Keller, Louis Braille, and even like, a lot of, successful, blind and visually impaired people in our own local context as well. But, in rural communities, there are a lot of people who are illiterate and uneducated. They have never seen the faces of the school, and they misinterpret, uh, the things as their own, understanding. It's a kind of like, tricky.
Yeah, it seems so. It seems so. And the similar story can be said anywhere. Usually if you go into more of an urban environment, people seem to be more aware. I've noticed this myself in New York.
Mhm.
People in New York are far more understanding of people with disabilities than all other. It seems to be than many other cities. I mean, I don't know. It's all really interesting. But yeah, what can you tell our listeners as far as like what is Kathmandu like? So again, I've been to all over Europe. I've been to the
Mhm.
Caribbean. I've been to islands, but I've never been to Asia. So to me, would it be like, to me as an American, does it seem like a major city or is it like a big town? Like, how would you describe it?
Right. So Kathmandu is the capital city of Nepal. The major city, of course, and a lot of people, many people come to Kathmandu to seek their fortune, because here, the distribution of facilities are, not equal to all the places. So, from the villages, even, people with disabilities, they come to Kathmandu, to seek, the better opportunities, or to seek their fortune, to have, better educational opportunities, to have employment opportunities, even to, take some trainings, right? So a lot of people, a lot of crowd, a lot of, traffic jam here. So, a lot of hustle and bustle,
Okay.
things.
So there would be
Yeah, a
like,
lot of.
so now is there any sense of public transportation there?
Yes.
Oh, there is. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Unlike America, here many people use public transportation. So
right.
people generally do not own cars, only bikes and public transportation.
Hmm. I see. I see. Do you suppose there are any international restaurants? I love eating food. I love
Yeah,
Indian food, so I would probably love.
right.
I would love Nepalese. But are there, for like the foreigners who are like working there? Do they have access to like international things and international food?
Right, yeah, in Kathmandu, yes, of course. Yeah, of
Hmm.
course. Yeah, if you come to Nepal, I would love to take you to, different places here.
Oh,
And
you're
Kathmandu,
so kind.
right.
I I am sadly not planning a trip to Nepal
Mhm.
anytime soon. But don't worry, if I come, I'll make sure to call you and stop by because that invitation's
Sure, yeah, of
accepted.
course. Yeah, of course. I'd love to host you. So you don't
Oh
need
well,
to
you're
look
so
for
well.
anything.
I great. You know what? You know what's even more amazing than coming to Nepal in my life is how kind you are. I appreciate the kindness more than the trip. Honestly, being kind is so